Hi, I'm Kevin with Ultimate Kilimanjaro. A lot of people ask me how I came to run a guide company. So in this video, I'm going to discuss my journey on the events that led to the creation of the business. I wasn't always an outdoorsy person. In fact, I was very much a city boy. I was born and raised in Chicago, the youngest son of immigrant parents from Taiwan. Growing up, I think I had a pretty typical childhood. Grades were really important to my parents, so that was my main focus, to study and get good grades, at the expense of not having outside hobbies. When I look back on my time, I would say that I was too focused on my studies to the extent that it caused some anxiety. To this day, I still have nightmares that I'm in a classroom and there's an exam, but I didn't know about it. Even though by nearly everyone's standards, I was a stellar student. Still, I felt like I didn't do enough, and I couldn't do enough academically. I went to business school at the University of Illinois. I chose business because as a child, I'd watch my father get dressed for work, with his suit, hat, overcoat, and briefcase, looking so professional and important. And I wanted to be important too. In my sophomore year, I declared my major. It was a new major that was offered, entrepreneurship. Even at 19 years old, I was interested in running my own business. But in my junior year, I found it quite difficult to get an internship with this strange major. The only summer job I found was at a temp agency. And the assignment they gave me was entering stacks and stacks of invoices for a food distribution company. After that, I wisely changed my major to something much more traditional and practical: finance. When I graduated, entrepreneurship was on the back burner. I needed work experience. I had a fascination with financial markets. I got a job as a market regulator with the Chicago Board of Trade, who was the largest futures exchange at the time. There was so much energy in the trading pits. Fortunes could be won and lost in seconds. But after years there, and after furthering my education with an MBA from Northwestern University, I yearned to get into the field of consulting, specifically litigation and dispute consulting. I began working for Deloitte, one of the world's largest accounting and professional services firms. There, I assisted with writing expert reports used in business litigation. In a nutshell, when businesses are involved in legal disputes, they require experts to quantify the financial injury resulting from that dispute. In other words, they need to justify the amount of money they are seeking. These figures, called damage calculations, comprise hypothetical losses a company suffer due to the other party's actions. As a job function, I really enjoyed it. It was very challenging. Mental sparring at the highest level with other very talented, intelligent, and competitive people. The job was heavy on math, financial concepts, analytical ability, spreadsheet skills, and the ability to craft logical, credible arguments. My team was very good at it. We'd win most of the time. But you know what the job was also heavy on? Hours. Hours I spent in an office typing away on a laptop. At 5 p.m. from my window, I could see people headed home from work. But I was nowhere near done with mine. Often, I'd have another 2-3 hours more, just to go home to eat, sleep, and do it all again the following day. Even though the job was mentally stimulating, the days felt mundane. And even though millions of client dollars were on the line for every project, to me, it still felt insignificant. I had 3 moments in my life that led me to change my career. The first one occurred when I was at work on a Sunday afternoon, helping the expert witness prepare for a deposition taking place the following Monday. As I sat in his office, talking with him, he had a couple of photos of his children on the cabinets behind his desk. 4 young girls. I thought, this guy has enough money by now to retire. He should be at home with his kids on Sunday, not with us in an office. It told me that no matter how high up this consulting ladder you climbed, the workload didn't get any lighter. It made me doubt the sustainability of this life and the cost of working in this industry. The second moment that made me rethink my career choice was when I was eating lunch on a workday. There was a table of 3 young men in front of me. I'd guess they were in their early 20s, all dressed alike with a white or light blue dress shirt, tie, and dress pants. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but they seemed happy, talking to each other, smiling. And it just so happened that at the table to their right was another group of 3 men, all dressed alike, white or light blue shirts, tie, and dress pants. And they were chatting, smiling, laughing. Except these men were all middle-aged. As I observed these tables back and forth, I saw a version of myself at these tables, in my past and in my future. And it didn't sit well with me. I thought, is this what I'm going to be? Is this all there is? All that happens in a 25 to 30 year time frame is you switch tables? This made me question the corporate lifestyle. The last moment happened as I sat on a plane departing from Burlington, Vermont, returning to Chicago. I had just spent the weekend having a blast, from snowboarding, dog sledding, and hanging out in Montreal. And I had to fly home to work the next day. I dreaded it. I started thinking about my life. I thought, if I died in this seat on this day, how would I think about the life I had lived? On paper, I looked good. The education, job titles, and the companies were notable. But beyond these achievements, I didn't have any memorable or significant life experiences. I'd concluded that if I faced death that day, I would have said my life had been lived suboptimally. It was a sad thought, and as I laid back in the seat, it ran over and over in my head, until I fell asleep. It was at this time that another voice asked why I couldn't live a different life. I didn't have a good answer. I started backpacking on weekends to get out into nature. I felt liberated and free when immersed in the wild areas, knowing I had everything I needed on my back. It was such a contrast from city life. I was in places that were beautiful, peaceful, and serene, a far cry from the financial markets of Chicago. After a couple years hiking in the mostly flat Midwestern states, I yearned to expand my horizons. You might say I had loftier ambitions. I was drawn to Mount Kilimanjaro. It sounded so interesting. A huge ice-capped mountain in an unfamiliar, faraway place. I decided I had to climb it. I can still remember the feeling I had as I stood on the summit. There happened to be no other climbers around, just me and my guide on a clear, calm, sunny day. That moment was literally life-changing. The achievement was thrilling, challenging, and immensely fulfilling. But what really stood out was that I'd accomplished something meaningful that wasn't connected to academics or my corporate career. It flipped a switch inside of me, and I was inspired and empowered to do more in life, much more. Since then, I've pursued my passion for the outdoors, travel, and entrepreneurship. I ran an adventure race in the Sahara Desert. I dove with manta rays off the coast of Kona. I've driven 10,000 miles from London to Ulaanbaatar. I visited 50 countries and climbed peaks all over the world. In short, I took control of my time, my interests, and my happiness, and I never looked back. All of this happened from one simple trip to the top of Kilimanjaro. I wondered, how many others are there, like me, who just need a little spark to change the trajectory of their life? With the hope that I could affect other people's lives in a similar way, I launched Ultimate Kilimanjaro in 2007. I wanted to present the most complete, honest, and accurate information on climbing Kilimanjaro, which was severely lacking at the time. I wanted to provide the best service on and off the mountain with a focus on safety, as safety-conscious companies were few and far between. And I wanted to do it all at a fair price, because the better operators were all very expensive. I'm glad to say that our message was well received. We became one of the largest, most reputable operators on the mountain by doing things right. More than 15,000 clients have stood on the summit with us. We're more than 15 years in and still getting better. On behalf of the entire staff here at Ultimate Kilimanjaro, I warmly welcome you to the roof of Africa. For some, climbing Kilimanjaro is just a check mark on a to-do list, and that's totally fine. But for others, it holds much more significance. I've read countless testimonials from our clients that express how much standing on the summit meant to them, and how it's affected their life in a far-reaching way ever since. So if you've been looking for the strength and motivation to make a change in your life, climbing Kilimanjaro might be the gateway for you as it has been for me and many others. I'll see you on the summit.